Good evening and welcome to Hairenik Media Newscast. My name is Arman Tsarukyan and I am your guest host. We have a comprehensive lineup of news for you today, spanning key developments in the homeland, Syria, and beyond. Let's begin with the latest headlines. The situation in the Middle East continues to be very volatile. In the early morning hours on Sunday, December 8, the opposition forces in Syria ended the 54 years of rule of the Assad family and the Ba'athist movement over Syria. The latest advancements by the opposition forces in Syria began with a blitz attack on Aleppo last Friday. Throughout the last week, various news sources reported that the Assad regime may be losing support among the leadership and rank and file of the army. These rumors proved to be true as opposition forces entered Damascus in the early morning hours of Sunday, December 8. In coordinated attacks, the opposition forces, now command control over the Syrian government's collapse, came amidst a background of various military conflicts in Lebanon, Israel, and Palestine. Assad and his family have been given asylum in Moscow. The fate of the Armenian community in Syria is cause for serious concern. The roads leading out of Aleppo were closed after the opposition takeover on Friday, November 29. Today, more communities find themselves in uncertain circumstances in Latakia, Damascus, and other regions of Syria. The first group of Armenian refugees were scheduled to arrive in Yerevan on December 14. However, the current chaotic situation on the ground makes the possibility of travel out of Syria uncertain. The government of Armenia had reportedly evacuated its consulate staff from Aleppo days prior to the attack on the city. The Armenian peacekeeping mission in Syria was also evacuated days before the blitz attack. The Armenian community and leadership were not informed about these evacuations until after the occupation of Aleppo by the opposition forces. The Armenian Relief Society has launched a global fundraising campaign to support the needs of the Syrian Armenian community. This fundraiser comes on the heels of another recent campaign launched on behalf of our community in Lebanon. More about the ARS initiatives will be covered in our next week's episode. Amid the turmoil in Aleppo, faith remains a source of resilience for many. On December 3rd, Archbishop Magar Ashkaryan led the Armenian prelacy of Aleppo in celebrating the feast of Saint Minas at the Church of the Holy Mother of God. During his sermon, Archbishop Ashkaryan called for strength and divine protection, reflecting on Christ's teachings about enduring challenges and staying faithful amidst opposition. He reminded attendees that true peace is found in faith, urging them to persevere through these difficult times. And now for news from the homeland. Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan stated this week that Armenia's return to the Collective Security Treaty Organization, CSTO, is becoming increasingly difficult, if not impossible, signaling the continued shift of his government's alliance to the West. Currently, however, there are no new military alliances available for Armenia to join. Armenia's permanent departure from the CSTO would leave Armenia with no military and security alliances. In political news, MP Hovik Aghazaryan has been expelled from the ruling civil contract faction due to allegations of leaking confidential state information and violating public moral norms. His dismissal comes at the heels of other high-ranking dismissals in the Pashinyan regime over the last few weeks. For more news from Yerevan, let's go to our correspondent, Nare Navasartyan. Nare, welcome.
Hi, Annie.
Hello. Can you provide us with an update on the transportation challenges that have taken center stage in Yerevan this week?
Of course. Last week, a number of drivers of Yerevan transportation system started a strike And the government met this strike with, instead of negotiating with them, they met it with an unprecedented wave of repressions and blackmails towards workers. This is the first time that the mayor of Yerevan, Armenian, has had to tackle this issue. And he dealt with this by accusing the drivers of blackmail, of sabotage, of not respecting the citizens' rights to, get to their workplaces. And Yerevan was paralyzed for quite some time. And so even the deputy mayor reported a crime to the general prosecutors. Highest standing MPs like Garnik Danielian and Tatevos Avitisyan were on the ground with the drivers, showing their solidarity and here listening to their concerns. The drivers cited they need better terms, they need better facilities. Sometimes they work for up to 15 hours per day, which is against the labor code of Armenia. And also this government had promised them wage increases starting from December 1st, but this promise they did not deliver on. So the government, in response, fired over 40 drivers. And this was harshly criticized by the former human rights defender, Tatoyan. He mentioned that striking is the constitutional right of the workers, and the government had no right to do this. And even worse, to report this as a crime.
Nare, can you explain in more detail why they went on strike?
So the transportation system is about to undergo a rehaul. A lot of the terms and conditions of the system are going to change. And in parallel to this, they had promised the drivers to increase their wages. But when this strike started and a lot of the opposition MPs started working on the ground, a number of violations of the labor code were revealed. For example, the access to facilities, the number of hours that they work, some of the responsibilities, additional responsibilities that they have to deal with, the quality of the cars themselves. And so, of course, the government doesn't really want to tackle all this issue. And because the drivers don't really have a union or an organization behind them, the threats, the blackmails that the government employed on the drivers, threatening to replace them, even though that is very, very difficult to do because we don't really have enough drivers of the category D, the bus drivers. But these threats and blackmails and sowing division really worked to stop the strikes in just 2 days.
Nare, there are reports of exorbitant price increases for public transportation, which will become effective on January 1. Can you provide details on that?
For over 20 years, the price of public transportation in Yerevan was constant. It was always 100 drams, which is around 25 cents. And this government, when they were still activists, they actually fought against this minor increase of prices from 100 drams to 150 drams. But now, when they are in power, they themselves have proposed to change the wage. One-time transportation fee is going to go from 100 drams to 300 drams. So it will increase 3 times, making it one of the the most expensive transportation fare in the region and in all post-Soviet countries. And even like Ankara, Moscow, if you compare, it's going to become very, very expensive. And the citizens, of course, they can't really keep up because the salary increases are not keeping up with the prices. And so there's a wave of discontent. And the leader of the Mother Armenia faction of the Council of Yerevan, Andranik Tevanyan, has started a petition and has gathered over 17,000 signatures against this transportation fare increase.
Naren, continuing our focus on exposing corruption and abuse of power by the Pashinyan regime, the mayor of Yerevan, Dikran Avinyan, was recently exposed in a controversy. Can you tell our audience what took place?
See, one of the reasons that they cite for this transportation system modernization, as they call it, is that they don't really have enough resources in the budget, so they have to increase the transportation fares. And yet, the mayor of Yerevan, a very unpopular one, that actually had only around 9% of the votes of the Yerevan population of the appropriate voting age, recently took a trip to America, a working trip that, just his ticket alone, it cost like $20,000, which is more than the annual budget for the youth activities planned in Yerevan. And of course, this abuse of power and abuse of taxpayers' money comes as no surprise. But still, when you see this happening on the backdrop of this transportation fare increase, it really makes citizens wonder.
What was the supposed reason for the travel, and did they achieve their goals?
Pashinyan's administration in general is very lavish with their trips. They like to travel around, one day it's Belgium, then it's Luxembourg, so then now this time it's America. They like to take their family members. So they don't really need a particular reason. And the lack of accountability has been a constant thread with this administration.
Thank you, Nare, for these reports from on the ground.
Thank you, Ani.
In sports, Armenian UFC fighter Arman Tsarukyan is set to face champion Islam Makhachev in a highly anticipated rematch at UFC 311 on January 18, 2025. Fighting in Los Angeles, Tsarukyan aims to become the first Armenian lightweight champion, inspiring fans worldwide. In other sports news, Armenia has been confirmed to host the 2027 International Weightlifting Federation World Championships, alongside other major international events, including the Francophonie Games and European Gymnastics Championships. That's all for tonight's broadcast. Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for updates on these developing stories. Good night.